Hi everybody, it's Kate Haley with Glazers here again today for Photofest 2021, our 12th annual Photofest event. We're super excited to bring you more programming today. We have two more sessions today, and this one is going to be a lot of fun because we are partnering up with our friends at Hahnemühle to talk about paper and finding the best photos to print. The session is called Print the Keepers. Our speaker today is Don Hamilton, and he's a wildlife photographer, I believe, based in Florida. And that's just one of the many skills that Don holds. I'll quickly introduce our friend Veronica, who you've probably seen before at our events online and in person here in Seattle. We are, of course, missing seeing Veronica and our vendor partner friends at these events. So we're looking forward to the next time we get to see Veronica in person. I'll drop her contact information in the chat as we kind of move through this presentation. But since we do have two presentations today, I don't want to delay this one too far because Don is excited to get in and start this conversation. So I would like to introduce Don Hamilton. Don, can you tell us just a little bit about you, and then we can dive into your presentation?
Hey, Kate. Welcome, everybody. Excited to be with my new family out there, Glazers, if you will. And as a wildlife nature photographer, I think it always occurs to people like, you know, how was the image actually acquired? So I'm more of a basic guy, quite different than most presenters in the sense that I believe that there's really not a whole lot of original here. There's a lot of good things that we learned from other people. So I'd like to share some of that, mostly share my passion with the excellence of getting a great shot. But not only getting a great shot is how we archive that and we actually print images that are dear to us in the sense that we want to have keepers. So we're going to talk a lot about that and just a lot of techniques I think that could be helpful.
Okay, amazing. So before we dive in, just that reminder, as always, if you have questions about the presentation today, please get those posted in the comments on Facebook or in the chat on YouTube. You might find we're answering some of those questions along the way, but we'll do a little bit of Q&A as we are able to help get as many of those questions answered as possible. So with that said, Don, I'm going to kick it over to you and we can launch your presentation and get started.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. It's exciting on behalf of the Hahnemühle Corporation, the best printing papers in the world, to be representing them tonight and working with them. I've been a national speaker for them for a couple years now, and it's certainly upped my game as far as printing goes, because what's happened is, and I'll take you through a journey of when we first get started with acquiring images, no matter what it is. One disclaimer, I'm not a portrait photographer, I'm a wildlife nature photographer, but it's in the passion in getting the shot. There's so many talks I do about getting the shot, but sometimes people think about, well, what happens after you get the shot? Is it a keeper? Is it not a keeper? And again, that's a personal decision, but I think we can shed some light on tonight of how possibly to take a picture that is a good solid picture as far as photographic skills go, and some of the concepts and rules that we have about composition, grading, et cetera, but remember, it's all personal. So I hope to deliver tonight a few key points on paper choices and ideas on why we want to print versus just getting stuck and hung up in this little digital network we have of showing our pictures on the iPhone or Instagram or Facebook, which is all good. However, what hangs on your wall is where the big dogs really roam. And so, you know, I basically believe in going big. And so I'm honored to have Veronica here tonight, and she's going to chime in as needed. We work very well together along with other people there. So.
And Don, I just realized this is our first time together out here in the Western region, and I think it's just appropriate that it's with Glazers, who I've had a long relationship with, and I am just delighted that you're here, that you're spending this time, and that we all get to see the work.
Thank you. Thanks, Veronica. Well, it's always fun to work with you. We've worked at many of the big national programs, but never really a Zoom. We've worked with Kevin and multiple people there in that regard. But briefly, you'll see me, just for my audience, we'll pick up pace on some things that you can do a screenshot on. So feel free to screenshot something if you want to look at it later. But I want to be fair and always be upfront, honest, and show you what's in my toolbox. These all have different applications. Doesn't matter what you shoot, Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, film, whatever. That's insignificant. What is significant is what you see, what you're after. Are you getting the shot? Are you telling a story with every image that you do? It seems like it's a little redundant in my vocabulary, but I seem to thrive more on getting the shot. I will confess to the group, I've never honestly been able to say, I envisioned this shot before I got there, and that's the shot I got. I think some people are stretching it on that. Now, I do envision different atmospheric conditions as a nature wildlife photographer, but it also comes into a better word than but is, however, it does influence you if you're thinking about what you're looking for in the long term. In these past 5 to 7 years, I've turned more in my career towards wanting to take images that I'm going to print. I think prior to that, I was too consumed with the normal fears of what's involved in printing. Is it cost? Is it the printer? Is it the paper? Is it the ink? Is it color management? Is it Photoshop, Creative Cloud? What is it that we could do to help get people through that? So I think tonight, not only is it getting the keeper, not only is it printing, but is it how can we make a transition to where you'd be interested in experimenting, whether you print your work, you have it printed, or you seek out some advice from people like, for instance, Hahnemühle Corporation has a wonderful support line there, if you will. So they have great web support as well as personal support. That's actually free, believe it or not. So that's a great thing. So I like to print. I really think that printing took my work to a higher level. I think printing also helped build my workshop business because people were able to see the work for truly what it was. To be fair to everybody, I think all of us could throw up a picture, a little digital picture tonight, and we'd all look like a badass photographer. The bottom line is that's not the case. When you print, you start developing and learning how you could have done this better, how this image could look better, and you start to see the areas that need improvement. So that's just one facet of why I strongly encourage printing, and it's much more economical than you think, particularly when we talk about sample packs that Veronica will lead me back to later on, should I forget to mention that. But sample packs are a very unique way to get started when we get going. As a wildlife photographer down in South Florida, leading workshops, really Costa Rica, Africa, Ecuador, all over South Florida, throughout the United States, predominantly got started with birds in flight because in Florida, we don't have big mammals. We don't have all of that. There comes a time when we all shift. Can people with us tonight identify how you kind of change your genre as you've gone? You kind of maybe made a started portrait, maybe you started doing antique items or maybe macro work or wildlife or nature, but you tend to migrate with that. I think the first important ingredient tonight, I think when you leave here tonight, everybody has a style. Your style is yours, mine is mine. I think what we're going to determine is that when you look at my images, you will determine when it comes to wildlife that I prefer to be at eye level. I don't prefer to shoot up or shoot down. I think that essentially cheapens your image when you have to shoot up or down. It's really not appropriate because it doesn't give you the perspective of leading your audience constantly to where you want them to be. And you're driving the bus. So your passion, you're putting the time and money into getting the photograph. And you could say, well, everybody's not as serious as you are. Well, it's not a serious thing. It's a relief because my full-time career has been nuclear medicine for many years, both in imaging, cardiac imaging to be specific. But I really found that my biggest therapy, the biggest release is being outdoors, going after the shot, in pursuit of the shot. So when we look at an image like this, obviously it's telling a story of what we would call one of our burrowing owls in South Florida. If there's any wildlife fellow colleagues here tonight, clearly you can tell what the focus is. It's a meal being consumed here in the form of a lizard. But more so important than that is if you wanted to really display this image was sold to several different people that are Audubon related folks and things like that. And what was interesting about this image is they liked the fact that it told the story. I personally was focused on that, but I never really envisioned that how much your background matters in an image and getting the shot. Is the background distracting? Is the background adding to the image? In this case, where these little fellows and he and she dwell, it's very appropriate to see the little flowers at this time of the year when they're coming out. It's also appropriate to realize that if you're using longer telephoto lenses, you can control your depth of field so easily. Now, for an image like this, if I wanted to keep this image, if I thought it was worthy or you thought it was worthy and you wanted to print this image, you have a couple choices you can make. To begin with, a lot of folks are under the misconception that the only paper that exists would be, forgive me, but I'm a funny kind of guy, this crinkly little plastic polyester paper that you get in a box somewhere that you buy a pallet for it at Costco or something, let's just say, okay? I happen to have a personal philosophy that printing papers are like toilet paper. You can buy the cheapest you want from someplace, or you can buy the real stuff and you know the results. The same thing happens with printing. And it's extremely important to realize that the paper of choice changes that image. So in this particular image, look at the colors, look at the deep colors that are in the bokeh of this particular image shot with a 600mm telephoto on a Canon 1DX2, which is my main go-to wildlife setup. I had a choice. If I liked the greens and I liked the colors, by the way, I'm more of a purist. I really do as little as I can in Adobe CC because I'd rather be in the field shooting. My focus is out there experiencing that. The second buzz you can get out of being a photographer is the printing, because things come to life. So we have a choice of a gloss paper. We have a choice of a matte paper. We even have a choice of a green eco-friendly papers now through the Hahnemühle Corporation. They're the only ones I'm aware of right now that have that. And so for a paper like this, if I chose more of a matte finish than I did a gloss finish, it's all personal. It doesn't mean anything. But I'm going to kind of call Veronica out for just a second. And Veronica, it's personal choice. But if you were going to print this image, what kind of paper pops up immediately for you? And then I'll tell you what I chose also.
Okay, I'm gonna go with two, and it's not that one is better than another. It's just that it kind of renders details differently. I would say the agave, because it has a little bit of texture and it's a slightly warmer base tint. And the other one that I would consider is something like the Fine Art Baryta Satin. There's something about this image that a warmer base tint paper, once again, for me, makes sense. So the Baryta Satin has a little bit, it has more of a sheen than a shine. So agave and Fine Art Baryta Satin are the two that I would probably start with.
Perfect. And I chose agave, but it was the first out of for me right off the bat. But I would share for our viewers, if you're not aware of it, we have a green line, eco-friendly line, which is made from sustainable products. We have a hemp line, we have an agave line, and we also have a bamboo line in that part. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. And I print on all three of them. The agave has quickly turned into a very big favorite go-to because it just gives you such a deep Dmax in the darker colors, as well as rich, vibrant colors that aren't oversaturated. Be mindful that oversaturating in post-processing can lead to problems. We always control the color management ourselves. We don't let the printer do that, okay? So that's another whole, my gosh, 4-hour conversation about that. But it's very simple. There are so many great tutorials today on printing, but that's just to give you one sample idea of paper. So remember, we have gloss choice, we have eco green friendly, sustainable product based, and we have also matte finish as well, and textures from light texture to heavy texture. So what I've chosen is some images from the gallery to just throw out there. These are a lot of from my teaching archives, because I've never been the kind of person to think we need to show this is my best work. That's not what we're here for, because everybody has best work. What we're here for is to talk about how maybe someone in the audience could better where they're at currently. I love monochrome.
Hey, Don, can I ask you a quick question with monochrome?
Yes.
And it's one of the, I think the highlights of digital papers is that you can print either black and white or color. And do you do that with, say, a paper? Have you printed both black and white and color on the same paper, as opposed to kind of pigeonholing a paper for one or the other?
Yes, you can do that with some of the printers, for instance, the Pro Canon 1000. Let me also disclaimer, I'm only a Canon printer individual. That's where all of my time has been spent. So I don't profess to know Epson or other, I think there's really only Epson and Canon out there, really, to be honest with you. But I'm not an expert in the Epson color management situation, but I can attest to you that the Canon printers by far have exceeded all my expectations, particularly in the long-term maintenance of head costs, which you can replace heads. Just order a head and put a head in yourself. I don't need technical assistance to do that. I like the dependability and the accuracy of a calibrated monitor.
Mhm.
A calibrated monitor is critical for your color management, not just in luminosity, but in tonal contrast or tonal throughout the picture. Black and whites. So getting back to the Pro 1000, you can print out a swatch of paper and select a multimodality of different colors and aspects, and you can then choose how you like your picture. The biggest secret that I want to make sure that everybody knows for any professional meeting tonight that has been out there for a while, it's imperative that you're acquiring these images in RAW as much as possible. Why? Because it gives us the latitude right or left in luminosity and tonal contrast and midtones as well to work with an image. So I never take an image in JPEG. You can do it and you can print it, don't get me wrong, but I want the extra insurance of taking an image in RAW and then converting it through many different ways. There's 100 billion opportunities to convert black and white. There's down and dirty simple, there's mid-tone luminosity masking, there's all these different opportunities. But I like to take an image always acquired in RAW, and I have the capability to convert it to a monochrome. Monochromatic images to me have become such a fascination because what they essentially do is remove the competition. They remove the competition of competing backgrounds and distractions in an image and bring to the forefront exactly what the subject matter is and what you're trying to show. There's so many different papers. Now, for instance, this paper, this is a great example of paper as well. This image has a lot of textures in the grasses and things like that, as well as the black and white. If you like a very subtle, glossy look, but not a shiny, oily face look, but a beautiful sheen, just with a hint of gloss, the Baryta Satin is a tremendous paper. It's an award-winning paper that will make anybody's image jump. I find when I do a lot of my African safaris today, which I've rescheduled now to 2022, I guess like all my fellow photographers have, we're not traveling right now, is that this particular image just pulls you to a Baryta Satin paper, but you could also go to a high key image. You could also use one of the Photo Rag super bright white images, very clean, just super sterile, but maximum details in that. And so those are options too. Again, it's all personal, but black and white is a favorite of mine. Did that get anywhere near the answer, Veronica? Or
Yeah, absolutely. It's back in the darkroom days, you were printing black and white on a silver gelatin paper. And the great thing now with digital is that if you have a black and white image on the Baryta Satin, it looks terrific. And that last image we looked at, which is color, that equally reproduces with stunning results. So
absolutely.
That's the wonderful thing. Well, one of the many things.
Yeah, one of the minis. And if the audience has the capability to chime in on there, if anybody's into monochrome or black and whites, if you will, monochromatic images, somebody give a thumbs up to some of the moderators and let us know, because I don't want to spend time on stuff that there's not an interest for. Trying to vary all the different genres and acquisitions. I used to be a aviation photographer early on. Now, this is back in the film days where you would shoot rolls and rolls and pray to goodness that when you got those developed that you were on cue. Today, it's so much easier with digital, particularly curious to see how many people in our audience are using mirrorless cameras, which are immediate feedback today compared to just a regular DSLR camera, which you need to look at a histogram perhaps or whatever. Knowing your equipment is critical. And so this particular image was one that was a shocking image. I never would have thought to even think about printing this image in the eco-friendly green line on hemp. I used hemp, which was very, very nice, very just as you see it. I used the agave. It was definitely deeper. The clouds, the textures, things were deeper. And then one of my favorite papers is, again, the Baryta very low satin gloss. Tremendous Dmax and a large depth in any of the darks where you see the blacks or you see the cockpits. It just highlights those areas. But there was another paper that has come to life in the past year, and it's their metallic paper. Their
I
metallic
knew
paper.
you were going there, Don. I knew it.
The metallic paper. Now, let me confess to the group. Let me make a confession. Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. Let me tell you, I hated metallic. When Hahnemühle presented to me some samples to try, by the way, sample packs are the way to go, gang. They have all different sizes. They're very economical to buy. I personally don't sell any prints today less than 13 by 19, majority are 17 by 22. But remember, I didn't get there in one day. I started with sample packs because each sample packs, whether it's a matte, gloss, or sustainable, including the metallic version in there, is in 2 sheets of each. And it allows you to print that and compare that to some of your others. The smallest sample pack they have is what?
It's 8.5 by 11.
Perfect.
And then 13 by 19. And John, the other thing is, which I'm sure you've used as a reference, in the sample pack, all the papers are marked on the back. So as you kind of narrow it down, you have the name of the paper.
Right. And also, in the interest of time, let's not lose track of the fact that when we print, folks, every one of these requires an ICC profile. These profiles are available for free on the Hahnemühle website, and you can download those. The first question they ask you is, what section of paper? Is it a gloss? Is it a matte? Is it a green line? You know, is it a metallic paper? Then what printer you're using, whether it's an Epson or Canon, you put the model number in. Then it comes up and allows you to download that. You then take that download from your computer and move that profile into your Photoshop, whether you're using Lightroom or CC, and that's going to be involved very much in the printing. What it essentially does for folks that aren't in the know is the ICC profile is the secret sauce. It is the sauce that matches your screenshot that's been color corrected here with your printer based on its inks and dyes that are being used based on its manufacturer. It is the surest, most quickest way to instant success in printing, hassle-free. So just think about the ICC profiles that are available to download. I know it's a lot to take in. We'll try to answer questions as we go, but we have a lot of support through the Hahnemühle website, and their staff is really, really good too. And again, if you email me or something like that, I do try to make every effort to return every email, okay? Here's the company itself. It's a very interesting name. It took me a while to get it pronounced right, but the secret to this company is that's all they do is paper. Do you realize that they are a paper manufacturer, not a distributor? They manufacture papers, and I'll leave it at that, but I'll tell you that if you'll look down here in the corner, you'll see that they've been making paper since 1584. No company, to my knowledge, has been making paper that long and that precise. Phenomenal. So what I love about Hahnemühle is every box is identical. It's not a matter of like, oh gosh, the quality control is slightly different on this box or this ream of paper. No matter what the selection is, they are spot on. So the consistency and dependability. Let's remember, you're spending the time, the effort, the ink to print. For God's sakes, we need to work with a print company that indeed ensures that their paper is quality, and it is from the start to the finish. And that's what I really like about them. By the way, I'm not on their payroll. This is not a paid for talk or anything like that. I love to share the passion with what works, because I too was a printer at one time that was buying this crinkly plastic polyester paper, and I couldn't understand for the life of me why my picture wouldn't look like my computer, even though it was color corrected. It still bugged me. So like the wise old owl says, it's very simple. You can pay for what you get. Again, if we're going to spend the economical resources to pursue a great image, let's carry it all the way to the end. Let's try to get these images they're hang them somewhere. Do something with that, or if not, have a portfolio. They make incredible portfolio boxes if you're trying to get portrait work, or you're trying to garner work from other corporations in food products, or whatever it is. You must have a portfolio. They make a dynamic killer portfolio box that I really, really like. And they have a really special one now that's I won't call it a centennial box, but it's a box that really has the paper that you choose with the gloves and the copyright and the actual correct ink pen to sign images when they're sold.
And Don, that's a separate item, but the box has 50 sheets of paper, 50 vellum interleaving sheets, the gloves, and then the certificates of authenticity. And your favorite natural line papers, the agave, hemp, and bamboo, plus the Photorag metallic, are available this go around in the limited edition
Oh,
portfolio
that's super.
boxes.
Right. Right. That's a super. One of my first papers that I started printing with was actually the Photorag 308. Photorag 308 convinced me 100% that I needed to quit playing around with these amateur papers and move to a real paper. I remember printing pictures and showing them to my wife, and she says, "Oh my gosh, did you go back out and reacquire that image?" I go, "No, it's the same image." Don, how could that be? The quality of the paper speaks so loudly. It's a phenomenal concept that so many people are, I won't say shallow-minded, forgive me, but they don't know the difference. They don't know that they don't know. Fair enough? And so that's one of the biggest things. This particular image looks super on a white matte, very bright base paper, and it just jumps this image because it's just nothing but eyes and details looking at you. Many choices for this. I didn't personally choose a gloss for this paper. You could choose a slightly textured paper, but I preferred to have the background not compete with the subject. So I chose a matte for this particular paper in the Photorag 308, a beautiful, and I'm going to show you more subject matter that I think it's appropriate for that. Here's a perfect example of where the 308 jumps, as well as a bright white, natural white. Is forgive me, I always want to say ultra white. Is that inappropriate, Veronica?
Well, we have the Photorag bright white, so we usually refer to it as bright white. Yeah.
For me and my clients, I kind of show it as ultra white. But imagine this particular image, and this image is available. Anyone can do this. Any photographer on here tonight can grab this image if you're patient. The idea was the exposure. We're exposing for what? We're exposing for the lights, the white colors, the white tones, bearing in mind knowing that a shutter speed is critical in aviation, or as well as in bird photography. And to get this X-ray look, this is not a phenomenon of post-processing magic. This is a 1600 shutter speed. A 1200 to 1250, 1600 shutter speed will nab an image like this every time on these gray, ugly, cloudy skies, and you can turn these images in to a high key image. So a beautiful matte paper. I didn't really consider a gloss paper. On this particular image, I used a matte on this, a 308 rag, or I used the bright white, or basically just a super clean paper that doesn't compete with the image is an option. Now, when we roll into textures, though, that's a different story. So here we have from one of our safaris, one of our participants here, who was happy with me, but not happy with some of the other people in the group because they were moving around in a Land Rover. And remember, in a Land Rover, you're not seen. You're kind of part of the car. But if you stand up or you remove yourself anywhere above the rails, below, or out the window, now you become cheeseburger. So the point is that this guy was sleeping and wouldn't open his eyes. But when somebody made one little move, that was it. He was bright-eyed, focused, and locked on. The image was submitted for a competition and did very well, but it was very interesting, the feedback for my fellow competitors in here. Y'all see the lava rocks down here in the field in the Serengeti? This was told to me that this was a major distraction in the image and pulled away from the image. So you know what? You take your lumps. I decided it wasn't a good idea to go out there and pick up the lava with him there and move it around, and that's not going to work. Images are images, right? But for you, if it tells the story, if it means something to you and you wish to hang it or archive it in your future references, there's opportunities to do that. So I'd like to maybe, I don't know, well, Kate's probably busy. She's trying to moderate this whole thing, but I'd love to hear somebody, if there's somebody from the audience that wants to chip in on what paper would they choose? Would they choose a matte? Would they choose a textured? Would they choose a gloss? And Veronica, I'll throw you in there too. What would you choose?
Well, I'll chime in.
Oh, good. Good.
Go ahead.
Because Devin and I are here at Glazers, and we're like, Photorag 308.
Well, that's so funny you should say that, because that's what I did. And before Veronica spills the beans, though, let me tell you one thing that I never thought about. I never thought about bamboo. I never thought
yeah.
about a moderate mild texture. Now, not torchon. Torchon, Torchon, is a very heavy textured paper, and we'll talk about that on another image. But a moderate small amount of texture is not a bad thing too, because all the whiskers and all the details tend to be jumping off the paper at you. But that's personal.
Right.
Veronica?
Well, and I have someone who's tuning in who's attended some of the in-person printing events that we've done with Veronica over the years, and he is tempted to say museum etching, which would be interesting because of the
Very
texture like you're
good.
talking about. Yeah.
That person just won a sample pack.
Oh, okay. Actually,
you
I
go.
can make that happen. Jim, I
That
can make that
person just
happen.
won a
I have one
sample
here for
pack.
you.
There you go. Good job. I don't know who it is, but good job, because you took the words out of my mouth. It's so funny. A gentleman named Kevin Graham, and actually Kevin Amphius, back when he worked for the company too, came to me one day and said, Don, did you ever print that on German etch? It's a little heavier. It's bold. Would you say, Veronica? It's bold.
Yes, it's not the boldest, but it definitely has discernible texture.
Exactly. And it may not be for everybody, but what a great choice, the audience. I love it when people jump in and participate. That's awesome.
Well, and he also likes seeing the rocks there. It adds to the story and the space that you're in. So, because both Devin and I kind of looked at each other, and I think a lot of the commentary like that is a little bit subjective too, right?
Yes, it is. But when they're the judge, what are you going to do, right? It's funny. This is another whole talk, but schooling, educational judging, I think is important, because you impact people. People tend to follow what they're being told usually. And so if it's your story, I say stick to it. But for my macro friends, my insects and reptiles, and I'm trying to cover a little bit of everybody here. This is an image from Costa Rica, done in the actual jungle. It's a tropical zone. Now, let's be honest with our images here. There's flashes in this image. You can clearly see the lighting. Look at the dark. Look how the lighting's coming down. This was done probably 3 or 4 o'clock, and now maybe even 5, because this is in the winter, getting a little bit darker in Costa Rica, a little different time zones is obviously. But the point is that I wanted it to look as real as it could. So what we needed was light coming down, as in the sun. We needed to highlight or accent that eye, because where is the viewer's eye going? I certainly hope it's not going over here, or I can't show you on here. I can show my pointer. I want to make sure that it's going here. This is the magic of the green tree frog. But what about when it comes to printing on an image? If this was a keeper for you, let's just say it was. If it was a keeper for you, would you be interested in some kind of a semi-gloss, a gloss, a matte? I wouldn't personally think off the bat I'd jump out and grab a textured paper, personally. A matte paper like agave was very interesting. The colors were spot on true. The blues and oranges and greens were spot on. What I noticed is I felt it lacked a little bit of depth. So I went to my go-to gloss for me, one of the only glosses I personally use, and that was a Baryta satin. Imagine the dark, deep, lush colors and details that this paper can give. It is a winner. So by all means, if you can get yourself hands on a sample pack of a gloss, get yourself in there and play around with that satin Baryta paper, which is just phenomenal paper. It's just details.
So Don, did you ever try this one on the metallic? Because for some reason, I just see metallic with this one.
I did. It jumps off the screen like unbelievable. Now, that's a personal taste, though. So the ones that were sold were more of a Baryta satin gloss. I did try to influence somebody with a metallic one, and they said, it just doesn't work so much for me. But other people said it was a stunning picture. Here's the key, though. Is it behind glass? Because when you look at it this way in the light and you rotate the image, metallic is a very different animal. Put it behind paper, and now you're on a flat plane looking at it. It just jumps out. So it's a very good choice of Veronica, and it's certainly one that is very worthy. It would not be a waste of paper for you to see. I think that I want to make sure our audience realizes that, is it going behind a fine archival acrylic or fine archival glass? Very important. Cheap.
And Don, I guess it makes a point, I'm sorry to interrupt, that, I kind of see metallic. You have a preference for Baryta satin. It's not that one's better than the other. They're both great options. It's just once again, as you said, personal preference.
It is. And you know what? Also, this image, the metallic has been out, 3 years, 2 years now?
2 years.
2 years. This was printed originally with the Barita. So that's where I fell in love with it, working that. And again, post-processing, you can bring up tones, you can bring down, you can highlight things if you want. I mean, all those are options. I hope it's beneficial. This is an interesting image. I wanted to show you a series of this, but we don't have the time of this. This image was originally shot from the front. It's kind of more of a Bonnie and Clyde image out in the Badlands. And the Badlands has many hidden secrets. If you're willing to drive some dirt roads, gravel roads that are bumpy washboards, you can find a lot of good things out there. But I brought this up to show you an image that jumped off the screen to me. When I saw it, I threw on the brakes. My wife says, "Oh man, not again. We're stopping again." I go, "Yeah, we got to stop, honey." And the first thing out of my mouth was metallic. Metallic killed this image. I don't know if you can see here, but look at all the different contrasts and the tonacities of different colors in here, as well as the texture. This image also works with the texture. But what I liked most about it, after I looked at the series and was thinking about publishing the series on the Old West out there, I realized that you need to tell the story, Don. If you just take a picture from the front of it, it was a neat picture. But look at this. Look at the perspective. We have scale perspective with the trees in the distance. We have the vast, dried up, drought-stricken plains with an old piece of history here that looks like it went into target practice or something. And just the accommodation, by the way, of shooting this at high noon. We don't normally shoot at high noon. Black and white monographic images, monochrome are beautiful for high light, especially when you use a polarizer. Because I took the glare and the sheen off of this, put it back in when I used metallic, a stunning image with some mountains in the background. By the way, I shot most of these with a Fujifilm 50 megapixel medium format camera. It's what I like to use a lot now. It slows you down. It makes you think. And it's just another tool in the service of using, whether you're using a crop body or a full frame camera body. But metallic is a great choice for this. Here, photo rag all day long. This particular image was done in the Badlands when the moon was setting, as you can see here. And I will tell you, as a photographer, I regretted not taking more images of this. I tried to tell the story, but I think some closer, tighter images might have been cooler, because we would have accentuated the bigger the moon and that little V that I waited for it to come up and happen in. This tells a story very nicely of all of us that were there that night. We talked about it after, but just these nice muted colors. The hemp paper does a very, very good job of that. The Photo Rag 308 matte, as well as the hemp green sustainable matte texture paper, not texture, but matte consistency, does a great job. I personally didn't like this with a gloss at all, but the one that really jumped out, again, comes the word agave. Agave is synonymous with the byproduct left over of tequila production. So isn't it amazing, just all the different choices? It's almost mind-boggling, right? You probably think, oh my God, Don, when are you going to just pick one paper? But the point is, it's personal and you have that option. So these are all great things to explore, maybe through your sample pack.
Well, and there are those subtle differences, but they actually come into play in different ways. So
they do. And the layers, the different layers and textures that you see here. Now, by the way, I did try to print this paper on torchon. I wanted to see what I didn't like about it. I know it's a crazy idea, but I thought this would be really super cool, but I didn't like all the texture up here. These are muted, very soft colors. So we could go with maybe a milder texture paper.
Right.
If you wanted that.
Museum etching but I think the agave, as you said, probably, yeah.
It was a home run. And so doesn't every photographer want their work to look the best it can? I mean, here is a shoe in on having your photography moved up one step tonight at a minimum on that. The other thing is, are you seeing when you're shooting, are you shooting to print? Are you printing with the mind of how you shoot? It's critical, because like long crops, start cropping images and doing things like that. This shows up remarkably well in printing and will quickly deflate you in a heartbeat when you start looking at issues that you're having with your work technically when you start printing. This is one of the beautiful things about printing. It brings to forefront a lot of things. I like getting what I call a totally different shot. This particular shot is of a snowy owl in Canada, minus 23 degrees, blowing, windy, just nasty, freezing like icicles on your eyebrows. I mean, it was something else. But waiting for the shot, and waiting for the shot meant I didn't know that I was going to get the wings and the eyes like that. But how do I ensure that? First of all, I had taken a test shot and knew that my shutter speed was appropriate. I knew that my color white balance was appropriate for snow. I'm always shooting +2 over on snow. Just a freebie tidbit. +2 over, 2.5, you'll nail the shot. I wanted to maintain, though, what I called a neutral background. Believe it or not, there's power lines back there. There's all sorts of stuff. But in a very high key image, we lost that with a very shallow depth of field at f4, shooting a handheld telephoto lens. The biggest remarkable thing is to have it published in a magazine and have it in a portrait mode. Magazines don't like portrait modes, but some pictures beg to be in a portrait mode. This one did. And what was nice about it, it was printed on bright white, a matte paper, and all you basically see are details only. And it basically tells the story. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Don, now this just takes my breath away on the screen, but this is one that we had in our booth a few years ago.
Right.
And I swear to you, if I could have found a way to successfully take it off the wall and you know, bring it home with me, I love this image, and to see it printed, it's spectacular. It's mind blowing.
Thank you. It was definitely one of those dream come trues, because you wanted a sequence of image. This is a 20 frame shots here. There's 20 frames in there, and all I did was pick the best shot for my fellow colleagues in here. Hopefully you can have a high-speed camera in your arsenal, your toolbox. High-speed frames are very beneficial when it comes to wildlife. You don't need it for portrait. You don't need it for food. You don't need it for wild or nature landscapes, but you need it in wildlife, because interesting things are being captured in between. So a great opportunity. But definitely a matte paper was very good here. I personally did not enjoy a glossy paper here. I thought the matte was, and 308 was the first go-to that I printed it on, and I liked it. I wanted more, slightly deeper details, and I thought the bright white was very, very nice. It just stunning is the word. Okay. Sorry for the non-snake people here, but I want to talk about depth of field. Not so much a printing illustration, but depth of field. Depth of field can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Here is very intentional to try to drive you, the subject matter, into the mouth to the two fangs that you see here. A vine snake out of Costa Rica tours. Poisonous, but not lethal or anything like that. Give you a big whelp, and it'll put a hurting on you, but nothing serious. They basically grab birds and things in the trees. But capturing this is not just your run of the mill. What you have to do is be patient and wait for the shot. Putting the time in the field is where it happens. And printing this on agave was magnificent with the greens and the different contrasts of the colors in the mouths as well. And I shoot with, for my friends that are shooting here, I shot this with a flash. This is macro photography for me. And I shot it with what we call a better beamer. A better beamer is a photo extender that I know glazers can get you one. There are boxes that go over your flash, and they're inversely proportional. They take the flash beam and narrow it down. These are all products that are available. Everything that I've shot here today are all products that are available through glazers or your shop of best interest. How's that? To be fair and unbiased. But I use the agave paper, a matte paper, very deep, luscious colors here, and the greens jumped. Any other choices, Veronica?
I think I would start with the fine art Baryta, because it's a cooler base tint. It has an appropriate amount of gloss and just a little bit of texture. I think I'd start there for me. But once again, this is, your choice is as valid as mine. It's a personal preference.
No, it's a very good choice, because there is some sheen and gloss in here. You see this? Same thing with here. Notice the eye that's in focus and the eye that's not. Depends. This is a very tough subject matter to do, because they're moving constantly, trying to home in on who they're going to strike. And so something to think about. But yes, a moderate gloss would definitely highlight that and make it look more like I won't say original, but a one you're accustomed to seeing usually in photo exhibits or things like that. Black and white. Does anybody in the group want to throw out what paper we chose for this image? what we is me, what I chose.
Oh.
It was very interesting. I chose, I'll give you the first choice. I chose a matte image. It was okay. The Barita satin rocked this image because it has such a dark affinity for a deep affinity for the darker colors like the mild and moldu and rot over here, etc. But the picture that jumped it out, and it was at I think WPPI, that everyone I brought disappeared, was metallic. And
See,
metallic
and that's
just
where I would
never,
have gone.
yeah,
I
good
would
for
have
you,
gone
Kate.
metallic because of the contrast that it adds in, and it
Right.
just brings that different kind of texture. Jim
Right.
is saying his museum etching again because that's his go-to. But yeah,
You go, Jim.
yeah.
That's very good. That's a very good choice. By the way, another alternative for you that want to experiment, because you're going to, if you get a sample pack, you'll have it in there, Torsion. Torsion was incredible on this image. I'll show you the best suited image for that shortly here, but Torsion worked as well. Okay, my all-time favorite Hahnemühle photo rag 308. Just gorgeous, subtle. Wow. Also printed it in for a client with a Barita satin, as we mentioned. Beautiful image. They liked them both, but they chose the Photo Rag 308. It's all individual. That's my point in this. It's just to show you what it is. But the colors are so realistic. By the way, the hemp, I think the hemp, I described the hemp, which is a very good paper today, and we're helping the ultimate be green and sustainable with it, is that it maybe accentuates the color slightly, but all manageable and all perfect, nothing off the record. It's good.
Well,
Go
and
ahead.
Don, since you mentioned the natural papers and the whole sustainability thing, 5% of the proceeds from the sale of both the digital and the traditional fine art natural line papers go to environmental protection
Wonderful.
programs like baby elephant rescue and different programs. And there's a whole section on our website I encourage everybody to go check out.
Yeah, maybe Kate or you can get the website up, or the link or something, or through the Glazers. I'm sure they can, but cool. Now this image here has a slight amount of texture. This was hanging at PPE, I believe in New York, and this was a stunning image. I personally never knew about. I knew about Torsion, but I didn't print on it before. And Kevin, not Kevin, but
Travis
is a master printer. That man is the most educated on printing. He's such a wealth of information that you could also access should you need it. Get on a schedule, obviously, but you could do it. He suggested, Don, we're going to hang this in a very big image at the national show. Can I just possibly try this in Torsion? Because I had used the bamboo and I had used German edge. Torsion killed it. It brought it to above and beyond. How? Because what it did is it's a very white paper, and it just exudes all the details. It brought out all the nooks and crannies. It accentuated each brick, and it made it just look like a wonderful archival, state-of-the-art conversion to black and white. I shot it with black and white with a Canon 14 to 24 millimeters at 14 millimeters. And what's nice about wide angle is it has a different depth of field controlling, so we could get it sharp all the way to the end. I did shoot this at like f16 all the way down. And for my parties that are here tonight, the audience, I focused somewhere way down here. Shot several images, kept finding where I felt I could get a front focus and a back focus to tell the story. But this is Dry Tortugas National Park out of Key West on a ferry way down there. We camped there for 3 nights and shot as best we could, but black and white just was the only way I saw this picture, because I think it would be too distracting without black and white. Very high key image, selective birds in flight that we've been doing seminars for years on, and I'll make it quick because we're running out of time here. My whole focus was to get you a sharp focal area, but indeed tell the story. And how do we do that? We work our shutter speeds. By working our shutter speeds, we infer that there's motion here, that there's wing flapping going on here, as well as the X-ray halo look of the spread out tail in the back coming in for a landing on a very high key day. Printed also on a matte paper, very selective. I chose hands down the Photorag Bright because it just allowed all the details to jump off the paper, and it totally isolated the subject matter versus competing with the background in the form of paper. So I didn't use any texture at all on this. Not to say you couldn't, but it was a matte paper. So
We can't.
well, we've already given away one sample pack, so I guess I'll be conservative tonight. But obviously, this picture only jumps out and says one word for paper choice, and it starts with an M. And metallic was just epic on this paper, and I thought it was the only way to go. Honestly, was metallic. It just was super, and I think that I saw. I don't know if it's my picture, but I saw a picture like this just recently in a Canon book. And I don't know if it's mine. I used to shoot a lot for Canon too. I'm kind of more independent Fujifilm guy now, but it's interesting to me that this was just a beautiful picture in it. I only wish the balloon didn't have this wrinkle in it. This is the actual balloon, and I guess you could doctor it up and all that, but then it wouldn't be the actual Albuquerque Balloon Fest, would it? It'd be something that Don did. So, but metallic is good. Definitely a gloss in this picture is very helpful, but in metallic, the colors compete, so they jump off the background. So there's no ifs and buts about it. It's in your face, it's stark, it's bold, and it's wonderful. Deep.
Sorry, Don.
Yeah.
Speaking of the metallic, do you ever print the 4x6, the smaller?
I do. They make some great little cards. I think hopefully Glazier good. Hopefully
It's
Glazier
the metallic. It's in 4x6 now.
Yes, and they're great personal thank yous to client cards as well as, any kind of thing. I mean, I don't do too many metallic Christmas cards, if you will, or Hanukkah cards, but I will tell you that basically those 4x6 cards come in different papers, but the metallic one is a newer one for me in that regard. And it's just super to do that. It's an eye opener, like, wow, when a client looks at that option.
And
So,
yes, Glazers just received their shipment, I think, last week, so they have it. Woohoo! And there's
so much excitement. I've been waiting for this since you announced it.
they come in bigger. They come in bigger sizes too.
Right. Well, I like the small photo 10s, so
Yes.
we're like stoked.
And,
I do want to mention we have just a few minutes left.
Okay.
So I don't know how much more you had in your presentation, but
don't worry, we're gonna mosey on through it. Just telling the story here. You can take a picture of these guys in Africa by themselves, or do you want to incorporate the whole story? That's the key. Let's find a better picture for my nature and wildlife. Metallic, 100% home run, just beautiful image, as well as a satin Verita. So I'm going to let her queue up questions, and we've got a ton more images that we could show, but I want to entertain some questions and help people. So what can I do to help, Kate?
well, we do have a couple of questions that had come in, and unfortunately, we have another session that starts shortly after this one. So that's part of the reason why we can't keep going. It is really awesome to see all your different images and the variety. I do, of course, love the owls, and I love the way that you've captured them. So I'm going to scroll up and find a question from Jim. Okay. So with all of these paper options available, if you're thinking about a portfolio or maybe a photo series that you're going to present to someone, do you print all of those images in that series on the same paper, or do you go with the paper that makes the most sense for the image itself?
Yeah, that's a very good one, Jim. I think your first gut feeling is maybe to, when you get in this thing, you're trying to learn, you're trying to make a good decision economically. I would encourage you to try to group them in the printings in what you're seeing. Your gut feeling in your eye is what can lead you to what paper of choice you may want. There's no harm in doing that. You'll never go wrong with Photorag 308, period, boom. Right. You'll never go wrong with that. So that's a great way to start if that's how you want to get yourself a box. I will say this before I end. I realize that economics dictate everything, but if you have a picture that you really like and you think it has the potential to impact your life or someone else's life, for gosh sakes, 13 by 19, if at all possible, then take it to bigger if that's your choice. You're talking night and day difference. Between 8.5 by 11, it's a difference magnitude, huge. You have different sample packs, so you can pick and choose different papers to choose.
And can I just say, Don, I don't know if you've done this, but my husband's a photographer and he took the 13 by 19 sample pack and actually printed 6 different images on it. So he had
Yes.
a portrait, he had black and white, he had some really vivid
Right.
colors, so that on one piece of paper, he was
Yes.
looking at a multitude of
Right.
tones. And
It's a great way to do a sample sheet, create a profile
Yeah.
sample sheet as well as the Canon Pro 1000 and 4000 and higher prints profile sheets that show you that also.
Well,
and
and we,
go ahead,
go
Kate.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, Don and I are very familiar with the Canon printers. We have a Canon Pro 1000 here at home, which we love, but we are printer agnostic. So our paper works very well with both Epson and
Yeah.
Canon. There's a full library of art profiles on our website. And Don mentioned Travis McConaughey, our tech applications specialist. Before Epson or Canon introduce a printer, they send one to Travis so that he and his counterpart in Germany can create all the profiles. So literally, as Epson and Canon introduce a new printer, simultaneously you can download the profiles.
Right. And I shared a link to the profiles on Hahnemühle's website in the chat room, as well multiple links back to our site for like the sample packs and all of that. I do want to mention that there is a category-wide discount on photo inkjet paper this weekend for Photofest. It's 15% off. So the sample packs, and if you've attended one of these events, either online or in person, we talk about these a lot. It's a great way to try out a few different types of paper so that you can really figure out what paper do you want to invest a little bit of money in. And you may find you fall in love with a few different options. And anyhow, so there's promo codes available.
Kate, one thing before you go.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick. Don't forget, if they're going to invest in that paper, please get your monitor in your color corrected scenario first. Kate and
Right.
Glazer can sell you spider, color monkeys, eye profiles, etc.
Yeah.
Anyway, on behalf of Hahnemühle and Don Hamilton Jr., it's been my pleasure. I hope to see you guys out there in person sometime doing a weekend presentation out there where we can cover a whole lot of ground. And I
Right.
hope to see you again. God bless you and be safe.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I just say one thing too? I encourage everybody to shop local. If you're within the proximity of the store, please go to the store.
We ship too.
Yes, I was going to say, and go to the website. And a little shameless plug for tomorrow, the aforementioned Travis McConaughey is doing a tech talk tomorrow at noon. So as we like to say, if you have questions, he has answers. And
you're going to be on
someday,
that
Don,
with him.
Yes, I am. But
and then you're doing one on Saturday.
Yes, and then I'm back on Saturday for happy hour with Hahnemühle.
Yep. Sweet.
Yeah. Yes. But I hope, Don, you and I can be together in Seattle and do one of these live.
That'd be good. I mean, I love being with the people. That's where so many great questions happen and lights turn on and things progress. That's the beauty of it. Virtual's good, love it, but in person's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Kate, for the opportunity. Appreciate it, Derek.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, I'll take a moment. Go ahead, Veronica.
Well, I always have one more thing, and I'll say just one more thing.
We
just
both
one
do.
More thing. You've known me long enough. It's how I roll. We've talked about papers. Don has done a great job of talking about the characteristics of paper. And this is one of my favorite things.
Yes.
It's a media sampler. All the papers we've talked about and then some are in here. What I like about it is there are no images. So it's truly all about the paper, the base tint, the texture, and the weight. And there are 2 papers that come in multiple weights, which are in here as well. So I am willing to turn my dining room table into a packet ship it. If you want one of these, I will send it to you. I guess, Kate, how do they send their snail mail address?
They're going to email you because I'm going to put
That's
your
right,
contact
that's right,
information in the
Kate's gonna
chat
post
again.
my email address.
Cool.
Yes.
If you're outside the United States, I'll do my best. I can definitely do it here in the US. If you're outside the US, I'll see if there's a selling company.
Do we have
Hahnemühle's-
some here in the store, Devin?
Yeah.
We have some here in the store too.
Wait.
Oh,
So if
cool.
you're
So
in,
if
if you
you're
happen to
near
pop
this-
by, we can put one in your hands too. So
Right. And if not, otherwise I can send one to you.
yeah,
They're wonderful tools. They're paramount to have. Wonderful.
absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
So I promise no
Okay.
one more thing.
Oh, no more one more. No, it's my turn for the one more thing. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, Dawn, thank you so much for sharing all of your work and talking about your paper choices for each of those. It's super helpful to kind of have that information and be thinking about as we try to print those different options that are available to us. We've talked about the sample packs a lot, so I'm not going to mention that anymore. But we do have more of these sessions. We have another one that starts at 5 p.m. with a Sony ambassador, Patrick Murphy-Racy, on
well.
sports photography. And then, like Veronica said, tomorrow at noon and Saturday at noon, we are going to have breakout rooms. So this is a little bit different. These are Zoom, private Zoom sessions, so you do have to register to get the email with the link for the Zoom session. So if you want to hang out with Veronica and Travis tomorrow or Veronica on Saturday, sign up for that session on our schedule site, and then you'll get the email with a link. It'll be a lot of fun. They're very, very relaxed, very chill. It's just about hanging out and geeking out more about printing, asking any other questions and all that good stuff. So thank you both again. Veronica, did you have one more thing?
It's always one more thing with me. I
one
hope
more.
everybody did a screenshot of this one, and I would absolutely encourage everybody to go to Don's website. I just keep going back to the Snowy Owl section because I just love those, but they're all extraordinary. And also check out the Hahnemühle website. There is a lot of information on there as well. And again, thank you to everybody.
One
And Devin
disclaimer,
behind the scenes.
One disclaimer before they hang up is my website just got hacked. So
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. So by the way, I found some images for sale on Pinterest, and I saw some images for sale in some I won't say it, a foreign market. And so I don't know if that's where it came from, but I don't know. Good luck trying I think you can get in. I don't really know. It's locking up and there's problems. So I got to talk to the developer. But anyway.
Okay, well,
It's all
check out
good.
Don's website in a couple of days, and,
Yes.
and I'm sure he's going to have it sorted by then.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right,
try to
I'm
get
going
it.
to,
My final thought is put your money on Travis. Travis is the man, and please do everything you can to be attending that with Veronica because the two of them, dynamic. Take
a
care.
dynamic duo for sure. All right, everybody who
everybody.
joined us, again, we'll be back at 5 p.m. with, that's 5 p.m. Pacific time with Sony Artisan of Imagery, Patrick Murphy-Racy. Sorry, so many words. And we're going to be talking about sports photography. So we'll see you back shortly. There's more programming between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I will, Jim, that the promo that I mentioned on air is live now. So the sale starts today. You can buy it right now.
Woohoo.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. We
Right.
will see you back online shortly. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.